This is Tamron 70 to 210 f4, a lens that the first time that I shot with it to try to get a review going, the memory card was corrupted. I've gone back, I've taken another swing at it, and this time, fingers crossed, I think we're going to be able to examine this, take a look at some example images, and give it a totally important and not at all arbitrary rating. Let's get into it. So the 70 to 210 f4 full frame compliant lens made for Canon and Nikon. In between the week when I shot my initial images on the memory card that ended up corrupting and making this video, this lens has won an EISA award for best product for a DSLR telephoto zoom lens. So that was really exciting to see, and I've wanted to shoot with this for a little while because it seemed like quite possibly the best lens of 2018 that no one's talking about. I don't see a whole lot of conversation regarding this lens, but it really is something that's a lot of fun. Now, people who know me know that I actually very much like f4 lenses. I personally sold all of my 2.8 glass several years ago, and I'm at primes and f4 lenses. And so the reason is when you take a look at this, it's the length you would expect. Let's take the hood off so you can see. That's the length you would expect from something that's in the 70 to 200, 210-ish range. But the width and the weight are really easy to carry around and hold. It's 850.5 grams, so it's quite light. It's quite thin to work with. It was easy for me to carry around. I shot with this on a Nikon D850 this past weekend at a workshop that I was teaching. And let's talk a little bit about the construction. It is stabilized, it is full frame compliant, is what they call their VC or vibration compensation lens. Its aperture range is quite interesting. It's f4 to f32. Now, I don't really use apertures more stopped down than f16, so that might just be Tamron showing off the kind of aperture construction that it's able to do, but it will go down to f32. It is moisture sealed. And you can see that when you take the rear lens cap off. You can see the rubber O-ring on it. It's a 9-blade diaphragm aperture. And I do have several examples that I'm going to show you of images shot at 210 millimeter with quite nice, pleasing circular background defocus. And so I think it's a really beautiful way that it does background defocus. It's not officially part of their SP lineup. And let me tell you a couple things. I asked Tamron about this, one of the Tamron representatives that I know, and there's a reason it's not part of the SP lineup. It's actually, they say, the same glass quality that they're putting into their SP lenses, which is their superior performance, their high-end lenses. But to be an SP lens means to Tamron that it must be a full metal construction. This is about 80% metal, 20% plastic. That's to save on weight. In fact, it saves on weight so much that you'll notice there's no tripod collar on it. Tripod collar is sold separately. It does not need one at the weight that it comes in at, which is quite nice, but it also means it's not part of the SP series. That in and of itself does not deter me from saying it might be a really high-end professional grade glass quality, but it does mean that it's really light to be able to work with. Another thing is I asked, why is it 210 rather than 200? And here was the actual answer I was given: because we can. That was the real answer. No one else is going up to 210, and they found that if they tried to make it wider than 70, it started really increasing in size. But if they went more telephoto than 200, they could do so without really increasing size or weight if they pushed it to 210. So it's just that little bit of extra range. It comes in at $800 right now. There's no rebates going on for it. They haven't discounted it. It's a new product, and so you're not going to see that for a little while. But coming in at $800, this is really a quite attractive lens, especially if we're going to get high quality performance out of it. And I think that I did. I was shooting a Birds of Prey workshop with it this weekend, and these are the images that I'm going to be showing you. And I was shooting, like I said, on a D850, and that's a high-resolution camera. This lens held up to the resolution requirements of the D850 and did so quite well. What was my shooting experience with it? I thought that it had really good control over color and contrast. I thought that it had really good control over chromatic aberration. Now, one thing that Tamron likes to talk about is their vibration compensation, something they call their triaxial system, which is where they can rotate the stabilizing element inside of the lens, and they say this adds a stop of stabilization. Now, I was shooting on a high-resolution camera, and as a result, that means I show motion blur more easily. But that said, it took me, I'd say, about 5-10 minutes to get comfortable with what kind of shutter speeds I need to handhold this at 210 millimeter. And it was a faster shutter speed than I was expecting. I do have some example images I'm going to show you of the stabilization on and off that's coming up in the image review portion of this review. I don't feel that it was an above average performance on the vibration compensation aspect of it. I can say that. But the image clarity and sharpness was superb. Going into these images, 100% zoom, and I'm going to show you that, it held up beautifully. I was not tracking any motion, though I did do some shooting going from minimum focusing distance to far away or to infinity itself. And it's fast. It's not blazing fast, but it's fast. I would feel really comfortable shooting portraits with this. If I needed to shoot action with it, I would be reasonably successful. There are lenses where I would be more successful. Now let's talk about the barrel throw. This is something I like talking about, of course. In the construction, you just have a simple vibration compensation on and off, and you have an autofocus on and off. You don't have any of the mode 1, 2, and 3 stabilization. The rotation for the barrel on the zoom is really only about 90 degrees. So it's fast to spin over to a big telephoto distance. But the actual movement of the manual focus ring is about 180 degree throw, which means that if you're doing manual focus or manual focus peaking control or manual focus assist, you've got a lot of minute latitude. And if you've seen any of my other lens reviews, you know that I like to have a good amount of throw. I feel 170 degrees is about perfect because I can do that in one movement of my hand, and it's the most amount of individualized control I can do without repositioning my hand halfway through the motion. So that actually felt good. There's no hyperfocal calculator on the lens. That doesn't bother me too much because I don't use those in telephoto the way I would in a wide angle. One thing I am missing is a button on the lens to be able to hold and lock focus or to program for something I want. But one feature it does have is it is compliant with the tap-in control module for Tamron, allowing for updating of the lens over time. So there's a lot of feature sets that is there and that work. A couple feature sets I see in other lenses that are missing, but overall it's a small light lens that was really quite a joy to work with, shooting with it, especially on a D850 that was able to drive the focus of it quite well. So I had a really good experience with this, but enough of me talking about it. Let's take a look at those images right now and see what this guy looks like up close and personal.
Let's take a look at a couple images from this lens, and first I want to show you what I'm talking about regarding stabilization. So let's take a look at two images here. One of them was stabilization turned on, one of them was stabilization turned off. These were shot at 210 millimeter, and as you can see, they were shot at a 1/125th of a second, which really shouldn't be that hard for a good stabilizer to be able to work with. And let's go in 100% into these like so. So first one with the stabilizer off, second one with the stabilizer on. And of course we can see more detail jumping at us with the small feathers inside of here and here. Tamron talks a lot about the triaxial stabilization, and I found that it works quite well on other lenses, but I didn't find it to be in any way above average with this one in particular. That was my experience during the morning. But as we take a look at other images, particularly when I found that the stabilizer was not something to rely on more than additional or other stabilizers, I really found that the lens came into its own. The contrast, I think, is beautiful. The lack of chromatic aberration is beautiful. The sharpness is beautiful. As I move into, especially wanting to work with black and white images, I thought the contrast really could be utilized to great advantage as I went through here, and I just loved working with the lens. It was light, it was small, its color rendition was fantastic, and the detail it's able to produce is really wonderful for a lens nearly at any cost, but especially at the cost that Tamron is asking for this particular lens. And so I'm not surprised that it won an EISA award. And with that, I believe that it's time for us to answer some very important questions regarding this lens.
No. Yeah. Yes.
And now it's time for a totally important and not at all arbitrary rating. In the beginner usage category, we're going to start with ease of use. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. And for size and weight in this category, it's really spectacular for everything it delivers. I'm giving it a true 5 out of 5. Flexibility, it is a shorter range for a beginner, not a short range for somebody who's more experienced, but still I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. Growth potential, I think, is fantastic. I want new photographers to start shooting with primes and with non-aperture variable lenses, and this is a really good one at an affordable price. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. Coolness factor on a lens like this, however, it doesn't seem to have that wow factor that I think that it should, but I'm judging it on the way that things are, and not the way I think they should be. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. Of course, it does get one additional point for dopeness, giving it a 19 out of 25 rating. In the enthusiast usage category, build quality is really nice. There's weather sealing. It's a nice construction, but being a non-SP lens, it's not full metal construction, and that gets it a 4 out of 5. Image quality, it was spectacular to work with in every way. When I was able to shoot with it properly, I really did produce nice contrast and wonderful sharpness. It gets a true 5 out of 5. Speed, this is not the fastest lens in the world, but it is certainly not the slowest. It gets a 4 out of 5. Feature set, I didn't love the stabilization in it. It doesn't have a hyperfocal calculator, and it doesn't have buttons for holding and locking focus, so it gets a 3 out of 5. Value, though, for $800, you just don't get better optics. This is a true 5 out of 5, giving it a 21 out of 25 in the enthusiast category, which really does make it so far the top enthusiast lens that I have rated, and I really think it's spectacular.
So that is the 70-210 f4 vibration compensation full frame lens from Tamron in the Canon and Nikon mount. What do I think? This is a good lens. I like this lens. I like it even if it costs more, but with the price that they're asking for it, this should be a gateway drug to get people into non-aperture variant lenses, into short-range lenses that produce high quality, into lenses that produce really beautiful background. This should bring back a joy and a love of high quality lenses that are not f2.8. So I think it's spectacular. I was very, very happy with it, and I hope that people who shoot with it are happy with it. If you've shot with this lens and you've got some experiences, we'd love to hear from you here. If there's a lens that you want to see me review, get in the comments, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. If you enjoy this video or the other ones that I have, give us a like, give us a subscribe. I very much appreciate it. I'm enjoying doing this. And of course, have a wonderful day. Take care.